Welcome to Football with Cheese. Okay, crazy weekend of football. I did this recap on Monday last week, but I was traveling back home yesterday. But I think I'm going to do them on Tuesdays from now on, just so I can include the Monday game or the Monday games, as there were two last night, which I actually liked. But turns out a lot of people I talked to did not stay up for the second game. It was really messy, so you didn't really miss much. But before we get into it, make sure you are subscribed. Hit the bell for notification so you never miss one of my videos. Also, tonight, the podcast, link in the description. We'll go over some topics that I won't be able to cover in this video. Talk about baseball, college football, a lot of college football stuff going on. So make sure you check that out. I also write articles, PackersTalk.com, all about the Green Bay Packers. The link for that is also in the description. They're released every Wednesday. All right, I've already talked about the Packers and Commanders. I'll link that video in this box at the end, so make sure you check it out. And if you did not see my college football recap, I did that video Sunday. I'll put it in this box at the end. Make sure you check it out after you've watched this video. But I already talked about it. I'm just going to mention a few more things here, and then we'll move on to the rest of the slate. At some point in this game, Green Bay had 400 yards total, and Washington only had like 140, yet it was still a close game. Green Bay's got to do it better when they're ahead. They get ahead, and Matt LaFleur gets conservative, or they just don't put people away. They miss some throws or commit a penalty or give up a long special teams return like they did to Debo in this game. They just have not been able to put Detroit or Washington away, and they pretty much dominated the first three quarters of both games. They've got to do a better job of that. He had 10 penalties, not good, although 2 or 3 were total BS. There was one on Washington that was a bad call as well. They kept calling defensive holding that wasn't defensive holding. One on Green Bay and one on Washington were horrible calls. The whole game was poorly officiated. But Green Bay, in 2 games, have given up a total of 9 points in the first 3 quarters. 22 points in the fourth, but that's all garbage time. 9 points in the first 3 quarters combined for both games. That is insane. It's not just Micah Parsons. There's some other players as well, though he's a big part of it, obviously. Tucker Kraft is incredible tight end. He's so athletic. He's so good after the catch. Matt LaFleur's got to make sure he gets 6, 7, 8 catches a game. He had 6 in this game. Just an absolute weapon. Edgerrin Cooper, I've talked about him a lot. He is so fast, so explosive, has incredible instincts. I think he has a chance to be first-team All-Pro this year. He's off to a great start in the first 2 games. We talked about Micah Parsons. I think he had 8 pressures and a half sack. I hate the half sack thing, but Parsons, they were lining him up against the right guard a lot. I can't even think of his name, but Sam Cosmi's injured right now, their star right guard. So they lined Parsons up against that guy, and he struggled. Of course, they double-teamed him. But Parsons was getting pressure on double teams. There was one play he got a pressure when the running back chipped him, and he was double-teamed, so basically triple-teamed. He's just an incredible player. Thank you, Cowboys. Keyshawn Nixon had 5 pass breakups in this game, and he's been very aggressive this year. So is Carrington Valentine. Nate Hobbs look good. Their other corners. But Keyshawn Nixon can be aggressive because he knows the quarterback has to get it out fast. Goff did it in week 1, Jaden Daniels week 2. So he can be aggressive. And that led to the 5 pass breakups. He also knows he's got Xavier McKinney playing free safety, who he trusts. So Green Bay has made 3 key moves to have an elite defense. They've made some other good moves too, but 3 key moves. In the 2024 free agency in March, they signed Xavier McKinney because they really needed a true center fielder, a free safety. Then they drafted Edgerrin Cooper in the second round in the draft that year, and then they traded for Micah Parsons in August. Those are the 3 best defensive players. I expect all 3 to be first-team All-Pro. Washington, I think they'll be okay. Look at Detroit. Detroit scored 6 points against Green Bay the first 3 quarters, and then they play Chicago's defense and score 38 in the first 3 quarters. But Washington will be fine. They have talent. But Jaden Daniels' knee, that is concerning. He might miss the next week. I think he had a sprain, had an MRI on the knee, but that's something to monitor. But I still think Washington should be a wild card team. Might not win the division. Cleveland versus Baltimore. I'm going to try to keep this video under 30 minutes. Yeah, right. I'm going to try to quickly just go through these notes. Might have to just skip a bunch of it, but Myles Garrett kept this game closer than it was. I think it was 41-17. But Myles Garrett, he's an incredible player. He made some plays in this game. He had a sack and a half. Ronnie Stanley's a really good left tackle, and he can't block Myles Garrett. Nobody can. It's insane how good he is. It would have been a lot worse for Cleveland if Myles Garrett didn't play in this game. You pretty much have to double or triple team him, just like Micah Parsons. Browns' run defense was outstanding 2 weeks in a row. Derrick Henry had 11 carries for 23 yards. He had another fumble, back-to-back fumbles by Derrick Henry, not like him. Lamar Jackson was outstanding. Ravens had the best offense in the NFL. They have scored at least 40 in back-to-back weeks. And against good defenses. Buffalo and Cleveland have good defenses. They're just tearing them apart. One thing the Ravens did not do well offensively is they were 3 for 12 on third down. So that has to be better. The Browns' their offense is just bad. Flacco is what he is. He's going to dink and dunk at this point in his career. His weapons aren't very good. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman. That's not a good 1-2 combination. I'd like it much better if Jeudy was the 2 and Tillman was the 3. The tight ends, Fannin Jr., the rookie, David Njoku, they're pretty good, but it's just not a great group. They played Dylan Gabriel at the end. I do not think he starts this week against Green Bay. No, do not throw him out there against the Packers, but he could start the week after that. I don't think it's going to be too much longer before they give him a shot, and maybe Shadur Sanders down the line if Gabriel struggles. To Browns 0-2, you're looking at the draft, Browns fans. You're not going to win a lot of games this year. Ravens are 1-1, despite being one of the best 3 teams in the NFL. Seattle at Pittsburgh. Wow, I thought Pittsburgh would take this. They did not play well, lose 31-17. 2 plays changed this game. Aaron Rodgers throws a pick in the end zone. He expected, it was either Calvin Austin or Pat Freiermuth. I think it was Freiermuth. He expected them to do something different, like maybe come back toward the ball. I'm not sure. Throws a pick in the end zone, so they don't get the 7 points. And then the kickoff, landing in the safe zone. There's a new rule. If it lands in the safe zone, you have to return it or down it if it bounces in the end zone. The rookie running back Caleb Johnson did not know that rule. He's a rookie. He should have known the rule, but you got to blame the coaches for that. The coaches should tell him. Maybe they told him and he just forgot. I don't know. But if you don't know, the ball bounced in the end zone. He just left it, and Seattle jumped on it for a touchdown. So that is the difference in the game. 31-17, that's 14 points right there in those 2 plays. But it was a messy game. There were 4 total interceptions, 2 by Darnold, 2 by Rodgers. Kenneth Walker had a big day. JSN, Jackson Smith Njigba, hope I said that right. He is a monster. He is a really good wide receiver, top 10 in the league. He really came on last year. And the Steelers' defense is just not good. I'm shocked. On paper, it looked like a top 5 defense, but they haven't stopped the run or the pass, and that's with Jalen Ramsey playing well. Good thing they traded for him. Jalen Warren, the running back, had a very good game. He's a dual threat. He can catch the ball in the backfield. So that's encouraging for the Steelers. They're not using DK Metcalf enough. I watched some of the game. I didn't watch all of it. I don't know if Seattle doubled him the whole game or put a safety over top or whatever. I know last week he had Sauce Gardner on him most of the game. So that's why he only had 4 catches. But they have got to get DK Metcalf the ball and down the field. That's his strength, his size and speed. And Seattle, they really needed this win. They should have beaten the Niners last week at home. Made so many mistakes in the fourth quarter. And the Steelers, God, they could easily be 0-2. They were lucky to beat the Jets last week. A special teams fumble pretty much gave them a touchdown. But the Steelers, it can't count on their offense to score 34 points like they did in week 1. They're going to have games where they score 17 or 20 points. So the defense has to be better. One more thing, Alex Highsmith has a high ankle sprain. But the word is he may not go on IR, but still probably going to miss at least 2 or 3 weeks. Seattle is 1-1, and Pittsburgh is 1-1. Okay. Bills, Jets. The Jets, as good as they looked last week, even though they lost, they looked terrible. Early penalties and a bad turnover pretty much killed them. Made it 13-0 Bills. Like right away, they had a 3rd and 19, I think, the Bills did, and the Jets roughed the passer, and it led to a touchdown. Just really dumb early mistakes, and you can't make mistakes against Buffalo. They will destroy you. They're such a good team. The Bills ran for 224 yards. What happened to the Jets defense? Same with the Steelers. What happened to them? You expected both the Jets and Steelers to have definitely top 10 defenses, maybe top 5. It looked good on paper, but they've been shredded this year. James Cook had a big game. Jets cannot win games where they give up 34 points and 30 in back-to-back weeks. They're not going to win games like that. They don't have a good enough offense. So the defense has to be better if they're going to compete for anything this year. More than likely, they're picking in the top 10 again. And who knows, maybe drafting a quarterback. Justin Fields got a concussion. Tyrod Taylor's a decent backup, but he can't do some of the things Fields can do, especially with his legs. The total yards was 403 to 154. 154 yards is not going to cut it, Jets. And 54 yards passing the Jets had. That's pathetic. I know your quarterback got hurt, but still, he wasn't doing all that great when he left. So, Jets 0-2, Bills 2-0. San Francisco, New Orleans. I'll say this. The Saints were expected to be awful, but they were in both games at the end. Both were at home. But they might be a little better than we thought. Might not be picking first. Probably still pick top 5. Still not a great roster. The offense is pretty bad. Spencer Rattler played decent. 3 touchdowns, no picks. I didn't think he'd have a game like that all season. Alvin Kamara is still a beast, although I think he did have a fumble. And Mac Jones was a quarterback for the Niners. Brock Purdy has a turf toe, I believe. Not as severe as Joe Burrow. But Mac Jones probably one of the better backups in the league. He played well. Niners might be okay without Purdy. But it's crazy that they're 2-0, considering all the injuries. Ayuk is still out from his injury last year. George Kittle, obviously Purdy. Niners are lucky to be 2-0 with all their injuries. Cardinals, Niners, both 2-0. Big game this week. We'll talk more of that on my preview show. Look out for that on Friday. And Fred Warner, got to mention him. He's the best middle linebacker in the NFL. He had a monster game. So 49ers 2-0, Saints 0-2. New England, Miami. The Dolphins' defense is horrific. It is just awful. They have no cornerback room to speak of. Milton Williams of the Patriots got $26 million per year, defensive tackle. He had 2 sacks in the Super Bowl for the Eagles last year. He was awesome in this game. He was unblockable. He had 2 sacks. I thought it was an overpay. Certainly didn't look like an overpay in this game. The Dolphins, we mentioned their cornerback room is bad. Their offensive line might be as bad, if that's possible. There's just not a lot of good units on this team. But I'll give the Dolphins credit. They fought hard. They had some big passing plays down the field. Devon Achane had 92 yards receiving. And I think he had a running play where he stepped out. He is definitely one of the positive things on the Dolphins right now. There's not a lot of positives. But the Dolphins have to outscore people because their defense is giving up, I think, 33 points each in back-to-back weeks. A lot of penalties in this game, 12 for the Patriots, 10 for the Dolphins. Travion Henderson, their second-round pick, had 3 holding penalties in this game. Did I see that right? 3 holding penalties? That could cost him some playing time because they're counting him to be the third down back, but if he's grabbing people, trying to pick up the blitz, then you can't put him out there. I was just thinking they need to feature him more, but he might lose some playing time there. But Mike Vrabel needed this. The Patriots have not been good for several years. They lost a game to the Raiders at home that a lot of people thought they should have won. And the Dolphins are awful. So he had to win this game. There would have been some questions if they'd started 0-2. And in 2 weeks, they have the Bills. So it could have been a 1-3 start for sure. I'm not sure how they have next week, but Tua Tagovailoa, he made some good throws in this game, and he made some horrific throws. That last play on 4th down, he just threw it right to the Patriot player. And he had a guy open. I don't know what he was thinking. I just don't understand Tua sometimes. He's just not very good. And honestly, Mike McDaniel has gotten the best out of him. I don't think Mike McDaniel's a bad offensive coach. I think he's a bad head coach. I don't think he's a leader. But he has gotten the best out of Tua a couple years ago maybe, but Tua Tagovailoa, he's just not it. They need to just get a new quarterback next year. If you're a Dolphins fan, you want to lose out, pick first, get a new coach, get a new quarterback, and just start over because they're just a disaster right now. LA Rams, Tennessee Titans. Rams get the win. I used this in Survivor. They made me nervous. Rams are actually down in the first half, 13-10. let me say this. I think Sean McVay has done a good job. He's won a Super Bowl. But some of his decisions, his play calling decisions, are just bad. They had the ball first and goal in the 3 and threw 3 times, all incompletions to Davante Adams. Didn't give it to Kyren Williams once. I just don't understand that. 3-yard line, you don't throw 3 times. Not in the NFL. You've got to run at least once, probably twice. And they ended up with a field goal there. Luckily, they were playing the Titans, so they pulled away in the second half. There was a 4th and 1 early in the game. Puka Nacua got the handoff and just bolted for a touchdown. It looked like he was going to be stopped, and then just out of nowhere finds a hole and runs it for long touchdowns. The Davante Adams-Puka Nacua duo is so good. Stafford's back appears to be okay. I don't see any issues with that. Cam Ward made one of the dumbest throws I've ever seen and it resulted in a touchdown. If you have not seen it, look it up. It was to rookie Alec Ayomaner. He's rolling right and throws all the way across the field, and Ayomaner makes this unbelievable catch, but that kind of play is intercepted more times than not. He's lucky it went for a touchdown, but that's what Cam Moore does. He takes a lot of chances. He's lucky, but honestly, one of the stupidest throws I've ever seen. He's just lucky it was caught. That's all I have to say about in that game. Rams are 2-0. Titans are 0-2. 2-0 Rams versus 2-0 Eagles next week. Can't wait for that game. Next up, we have Chicago versus Detroit. So the Bears are bad at football. Maybe they're good at finding honey and hibernating, but they're not good at football. The Chicago Bears look worse than last year. They look so bad. And they collapsed against the Vikings. They had their chances early, didn't take advantage, and just completely collapsed in the fourth quarter. But you saw some encouraging signs because they started really well. But this game was just never a game. It was a disaster. The Bears' defense wasn't great with Jalen Johnson, who's now probably out for the year. He's their best player on defense. He's a really good cornerback. And they weren't good with him. And without him, it's going to be bad. The secondary is going to give a lot of points. They gave up over 500 yards. And the Lions, of course, they have a great offense. They were at home in the Dome, obviously. But the Lions really struggled offensively last week. Couldn't get anything going. It's the difference between the Packers defense and the Bears, I guess, and being at home. But the Lions' huge bounce-back win, score 52 points. They beat Ben Johnson. They didn't seem to miss him in that game. They certainly seemed to miss him in week 1. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, huge game. Let me say this about Amon-Ra. He did something I really did not like. After one of his touchdowns, I think he had 3 of them, he runs to maybe the 5-yard line and then fakes a hamstring injury. I think he should be fined and threatened with suspension if he ever does that again, because that is going to make Lions fans scream. People that own in fantasy, they're going to go, what the hell? Yeah, I thought he was hurt. I was watching that game. I thought he was hurt. And he should not be faking an injury. All these people get hurt, and it's devastating for them and for their team. And to fake one in a celebration is just absolutely ridiculous. That has no place in the game. I would definitely fine him. Jamison Williams caught a long touchdown. The Bears didn't cover him. Their deep threat, Jamison Williams, who had a breakout year last year, one of the best deep threats in the NFL, was just not covered. Just ran down the middle of the field. 4 sacks for Lions. Bears got none. They don't have much of a pass rush at all. Caleb Williams, inaccurate again. He had a horrible interception. I don't know if he was trying to throw it away, but he didn't do a very good job. Kirby Joseph picked him off. But on a positive note, Rome Odunze had a big game. They're finally using Wright, getting him the ball down the field. Really talented receiver. Was a top 10 pick last year. But the Bears are a disaster, looking at probably 5-6 wins again. Giants-Cowboys, crazy overtime game. Giants easily could have won this. There was just no defense in this game. Giants had 506 total yards. Cowboys 478. Braden Aubrey is a weapon as a kicker. He had a 64-yard kick to tie it, 46-yard to win it. He's probably the best kicker in the NFL. There's a lot of good kickers, a lot of bad kickers too. Malik Neighbors is a freak of nature. 9 catches, 167, 2 touchdowns. He is so good. He might be a top 5 receiver by the end of the year. That's how talented he is. The Cowboys defense is so bad, they let Wan'Dale Robinson get 8 catches for 142 yards. Robinson's always just been a guy you just dink and dunk it to. He's never really been a down-the-field threat. But against the Cowboys D, I guess he is. Russell Wilson just kept throwing deep. Cowboys just kept giving up big plays, so he just kept chucking it deep. It looks like Cam Skattebo for the Giants is the guy now. I think that's the right move. They don't run block well, and he breaks more tackles than Tyron Tracy. And Javonte Williams for the Cowboys, off to a really good start this year. Brian Schottenheimer, first win as a head coach. Dallas 1-1, Giants 0-2. Jacksonville, Cincinnati. Obviously, Joe Burrow getting hurt. He had one of those really bad turf toe injuries, needs surgery, so he's probably out 3 months. Bengals, though, still rallied to win despite Jake Browning throwing 3 interceptions. But you're playing the Jaguars, you're going to have a chance to win. He did throw 2 touchdowns, and he's got a lot of weapons, obviously. And I'll say this about Jake Browning. He's going to be the starter going forward. No, they're not going to make some crazy trade, and they're not pulling anyone out of retirement. He's going to be the guy. He did go 4-3 in 2023 when Burrow was out. And the teams he lost to were the Chiefs and the Steelers twice, who were very good teams that year. And he beat the teams he should have. So they have a shot to still be in the playoff race because they are 2-0. They're in first place by themselves in the AFC North. If they go something like 6-6 the next 12 games, they'll be 8-6. And Burrow can come back then for the last 3, then they have a shot. If they go 4-8, then probably not. Then they'll be 6-8. So Bengals not ready to give up on the season, but certainly it hurts having Jake Browning in there. It's going to be so much easier to scheme them. He's just not close to the player Burrow is. So real tough break for the Bengals. Jaguars now. Start with the positive. Travis Etienne looks really good. Looks like he did his rookie year. Liam Cohen, the head coach, has fixed him, but he's not fixed Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is just not the guy. You're not going to win with Trevor Lawrence. You're not winning a Super Bowl. He's too inconsistent. He'll make a great throw and just a horrific throw. It's time to move on from Trevor Lawrence after the season. He was the first overall pick. I thought he was going to be an amazing pro, just like Andrew Luck and Joe Burrow. I had him almost as good as those guys. That's how good I thought Lawrence was going to be. He's just not the guy. It's not all his fault, but I'll say this. He does not put his receivers in good situations. Aaron Rodgers got a lot of criticism in his career for not throwing across the middle enough. But one of the reasons he does not do that is because it puts your wide receiver in danger. And Peyton Manning, for example, talked about this. Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne were healthy most of their career with the Colts. He did not put them in situations where they could get hurt. And I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback that puts his receivers in more peril than Trevor Lawrence. And Brian Thomas Jr., we've got to talk about him. Unbelievable rookie season. One of the best rookie seasons receivers ever had. He had 2 horrible drops. There were a couple times it looked like he didn't run the route because he didn't want to get hit. And I think it's because Trevor Lawrence keeps putting him in bad situations. Now, I don't like how Brian Thomas Jr. handled this game, so that's got to be cleaned up, but I get it. Trevor Lawrence puts you in bad situations. And Brian Thomas Jr. is probably tired of taking all those hits. So that's just a total mess. The Jaguars are 1-1 because they played the Panthers week 1. That's the only reason. They're not going to be very good. They're going to have a losing record again. They just need to move on for Trevor Lawrence, like I said. And how do you get 3 interceptions from the backup quarterback, Jake Browning, and still lose this game? Unbelievable, because it's the Jaguars. They do stuff like this. Cardinals versus Panthers. Cardinals get the win. They're 2-0. They had to win this game. You have to beat the Saints, Panthers, and they did. They're 2-0. The easiest 2 games probably on their schedule. And Arizona hasn't played perfect, but they got the win. The Cardinals, just like we talked about the Packers, they've got to put people away when they get a lead. They were up 27-3 in this game and let the Panthers right back in it. In fact, the Panthers had the ball down 27-22 late after an onside kick. I don't know if it was a brilliant onside kick or just lucky, but the kicker hit the Arizona player looking to block. Because when you're receiving an onside kick, you have guys that block and one guy is supposed to receive. But it hit one of the blockers. But luckily the Cardinals defense stopped them. But boy, that would have been an embarrassing loss. You cannot lose a game when you lead 27-3. And as far as the Cardinals offense goes, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray, they just don't have chemistry. I thought with the offseason they would be fine. It just, something isn't quite there. They just don't seem to mesh well. That's something to watch throughout the season. Cardinals had 12 penalties too, but luckily, you're playing the Panthers, and they're just not very good. Carolina had 2 offensive line injuries, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt. They might both be out for the season. That's devastating. That's 2 of their 3 best offensive linemen. And I thought offensive line would be one of their strengths of the team. Now it's going to be a weakness, and then we know their defense stinks. It's terrible. Bryce Young did throw 3 touchdowns, but they were in garbage time. He has not looked the same. The last 3 or 4 games last year, he was so good. And you thought if he can play like that or close to that this year, after they drafted Tedder McMillan, who looks amazing, by the way, the wide receiver from Arizona, he had a 100-yard game. So now you're thinking he's got a number 1 receiver, can build on how they finished last year, and he looks like the old Bryce Young, just making too many mistakes. And Xavier Legette, he was the Panthers' first-round pick in 2024. They traded into the first round to get him. He's a wide receiver from South Carolina. He's probably the worst wide receiver in the NFL. He's the worst first-round pick wide receiver I've ever seen. He sucks. He should be inactive. He should not be on a roster. I don't even know if he should be on a practice squad. There has to be someone on a practice squad. All 32 teams better than him. I don't know why he's active. He stinks. Oh, that sounded harsh, but I'm just being honest. And, like I said, the Panthers defense is just horrible. They're 0-2. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. Broncos, Colts, what a crazy finish. Colts had 473 yards of offense. I said this in the preview video. The Colts offense looked amazing, but it was the Dolphins. Could they do it against the Broncos D? And they did. They scored 33 points last week. They get 29, I believe, this week. The Colts have the best offense in the NFL if you take away the quarterback. The other 10, they have unbelievable offensive line. They have really good receivers. They have one of the best young tight ends in the NFL. Their offense is legit. They're going to score a lot of points this year. I'm not ready to say Daniel Jones is the guy. I think they make a huge mistake if they gave him like a 4 or 5 year extension, give him $40-50 million a year, which someone was floating. I saw that on X. Do not do that, Colts. It is a wonderful quarterback class next year. Maybe offer him a 1-year extension, maybe 2, and then draft a quarterback. I really would. Because most quarterbacks you can put in this offense, they'd have success like Daniel Jones is having. I still don't believe in him. I think he can be a very good backup, but I think he's still a below-average starter. Even though the numbers look good, he's got a lot of help on that offense. The Ravens still have the best offense in the league because you have to include the quarterback, Lamar Jackson, obviously. And Jonathan Taylor, wow, 165 yards rushing. What happened to Denver's defense? Wow, 165 for Jonathan Taylor. He's looked great this year. But the Broncos still should have won this game. After all of that, they're up 5, early 4th quarter, and Nix throws a pick. If they even get a field goal, they probably win. So they're still up 5, and then they miss a field goal on the next drive. I think it hit the upright. That would have given them an 8-point lead. And then the Colts have a 60-yard kick, miss it horribly, and they call a leverage penalty on Broncos. So stupid. You know the rule. You cannot dive over the long snapper because it's a safety issue. I don't necessarily like that rule, but we'll talk more about it on the podcast tonight. Link in the description. But any of those things don't happen, the Broncos win. And, of course, he made the 45-yard kick. Broncos were so close to being 2-0, and now they're in second place. Chargers 2-0. By the way, they play the Chargers next week. Huge game. If the Broncos lose, they'll be 2 games behind LA. So they really need to win that game because they absolutely blew this. And I think the Colts are going to win the division. Houston looks terrible. We'll talk about that in a second. Their offense is legit. They're going to score a lot of points, and that's good enough for 10 or 11 wins. I really do think the Colts will take the AFC South. Philadelphia, Kansas City. God, this is taking forever. Eagles now 2-0, but they were close to 0-2. Really, CeeDee Lamb dropping all those balls gave them the Week 1 win, and the 14-point swing. If you did not see, Travis Kelce had the ball hit off his hands and was intercepted. The Chiefs were about to go up 17-13. Who knows? Maybe the Eagles would have rallied to win. We don't know. But then the Eagles return it past midfield. They end up scoring on that possession and go up 20-10. The Chiefs would then go on to get a touchdown, but still lost 20-17. 14-point swing. I really believe the Chiefs would have won the game. We'll never know. But Travis Kelce, first of all, he hurts Xavier Worthy. Don't think he did on purpose. right away, which really hurt the Chiefs' chances against the Chargers and this game. And then he drops a would-be touchdown that turns into an interception. Ever since he got engaged to Taylor Swift, bad things are happening to him. That should be an omen. Travis Kelce, what are you doing? So, but the Chiefs kept throwing it deep. This was a strange game. Looked nothing like the Super Bowl. Vic Fangio did not call a single blitz in the Super Bowl when the Eagles played the Chiefs, and the Eagles destroyed them. He didn't really need to because they were so far ahead, but he called a lot of blitzes and he played a lot of man. That's not like him. He usually doesn't blitz a lot and he plays a lot of zone. So the Chiefs threw deep a lot, and they hit one with Tyquan Thornton late in the game to make it 2017. I guess Vic Fangio thought without Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice that they couldn't throw it deep, but Tyquan Thornton did catch one. The Eagles' offense, let's talk about them. They looked really good in the first half against the Cowboys. The last 6 quarters, they have not looked very good at all. Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown for a lot of yards the last 6 quarters, just has not looked good. So they are 2-0. Probably lucky to be 2-0. Got a really tough game against the Rams coming up. And the Chiefs, yes, they're 0-2. But with all their injuries and the suspension of Rashee Rice, played 2 very good teams. 2 playoff teams from last year and the team that won the Super Bowl. So they'll be okay, but they have to beat the Giants in New York in Week 3. You cannot lose to a team like the Giants. So I still think they have a good chance to make the playoffs, but the Chiefs won so many close games last year when they went 15-2. They're bound to have 4 or 5 losses close this year. It's just impossible to keep always winning those close games. So 0-2 Chiefs. For some reason, Sunday night is Giants-Chiefs. You got Broncos-Chargers. You got Rams, Eagles. Like I said, you got Lions-Ravens. And you pick that for Sunday Night Football. Just a horrible pick. One more thing about the Chiefs. Mahomes scrambling is their running game. They have not been able to run the ball this year. And I really thought they'd focus more on it with Pacheco healthy, and they have Kareem Hunt, but they have not, and it's not been effective when they've tried. Atlanta, Minnesota, wow. Whew. What a defensive game. So the story with this game was the Vikings' offensive line. They had a couple injuries. Obviously, Christian Darrisaw missed the game at left tackle, and then Ryan Kelly got hurt. And Justin Skule and Michael Jurgens are the backups, and they are terrible. And then Walter Rouse came in after Skule got hurt. I hope I pronounced his name right. And he was terrible. They don't have any backup offensive line should be on a roster. They're 5 deep on the offensive line. 5 very good offensive linemen, but they don't have any backups that should be on an NFL roster. A lot of teams are like that. Tampa Bay, we'll talk about in a second. They don't have very good backups as well. Almost no one has offensive line depth. We'll talk about that in another video leading up to the draft because it's a very good offensive line draft. But like I said, another video. So I felt bad for J.J. McCarthy. He did not play well. No doubt about it. He played pretty bad, but he wasn't getting much help. 6 sacks for the Falcons. He was running for his life. He looked very frustrated. There's a rumor out there. I only saw it one place, so take it with a grain of salt, that Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, wanted to bench J.J. McCarthy. Justin Jefferson said, don't do it. If you do it, then that's it for him. He might not come back, which I agree with Justin Jefferson. But here's the weird thing. I did not see J.J. McCarthy get injured. He looked fine in every play of the game. All of a sudden, he's a high ankle sprain. Not going to play week 3. I'm wondering, conspiracy theorist that I am, I'm wondering if McCarthy, they just want to give him a couple weeks off to just relax, and kind of like Bryce Young last year was benched for a few games and came back and played much better. Maybe they're doing that with McCarthy, but they don't want to say he's benched. Maybe the ankle was bothering him a little, but high ankle sprain, I've had one. I was on crutches for a week, maybe even a week and a half. You can't walk on it. And he seemed fine, unless he did in the locker room after. I'm not sure, but anyway, let's talk about the Falcons. Their defense is incredible. It is one of the most improved defenses in the NFL. Investing in those pass rushers in the first round has helped. But the whole defensive line play well. They're getting pressure. There's 2 rookie safeties, Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman Jr. look amazing. So they've taken safety and pass rush and made it a strength. We're probably going to see the Falcons not throw a lot this year. Have the game plan of we're going to feed Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and just play defense. And definitely in the regular season might be a smart move. They're still in second place because they did lose to the Buccaneers, but Falcons defense looks absolutely legit. And especially you want to run the ball a lot because, one, you have Bijan Robinson. He still dances too much. He still dances when he doesn't. Sometimes he just needs to hit that hole and just go because he's so gifted. He's got unbelievable feet for his size. He's probably the most talented running back in the NFL now. Is not the best, but probably the most talented and the best dual threat. But if Drake London's going to fumble like that, why throw? Just run every time. But it was just a messy game. Falcons got to do a much better job at getting touchdowns. They kicked 5 field goals before they finally got one late. Obviously, it didn't matter because the defense played so well, but their games will matter. So Parker Romo, their new kicker, did much better than Young Hook. I don't know. It doesn't matter. He's not going to kick there anymore. But Parker Romo, new kicker, did very well. But Carson Wentz time in Minnesota. We'll see how long they hold J.J. McCarthy out. Next up, we have Tampa Bay, Houston. The Texans were 2 of 9 on third down. Their offense looks terrible. A lot of boo birds. The offensive line is just horrific. You think you could trade Laramie Tunsil and you'd be fine on the offensive line. It wasn't good with him. They are so bad at picking up blitzes. They are so bad with stunts. They don't communicate well at all. Bobby Slowick was the offensive coordinator the last few years. He was like a genius in 2023 when the offensive line wasn't bad and C.J. Stroud had this monster year, right? Then last year he got the blame. But it was the personnel. It was the offensive line. So he's now the passing game coordinator for the Dolphins. He used to be the passing game coordinator for the 49ers. And he was there. Mike McDaniel was the coach of the Dolphins. He was the run game coordinator. So they were there in San Francisco together. So Bobby Slowick, I'm wondering, because the whole coaching staff's going to be fired in Miami, obviously. I'm wondering if Bobby Slowick will get a coordinator job if the Texans' offense doesn't turn around, because it's certainly not his fault now. He was definitely the scapegoat. But the Texans are averaging 14 points a game. Their defense is very good, no doubt about it, but that's not good enough. If they average 14 points a game, they're going to win 4 or 5 games. They do have the Titans on the schedule twice, but they're 0-2 and 2 games behind the Colts. Let's talk about the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield. So I've watched every snap of both Buccaneers games this year, and Baker Mayfield's thrown at least 5 passes that should have been intercepted, or at least could have been intercepted. Maybe not should, but the defender got their hand on the ball. I think he's 5 touchdowns, no picks. So, but he does that. He threw 16 interceptions last year. I think it led the league. But he's been kind of lucky, but they need Tristan Wirfs back. And then they had another injury. Luke Gedeke, the right tackle, got hurt, and it showed. They were lucky to win this game. If they don't have Emeka Egbuka, if they don't draft him in the first round, they're 0-2. They've won 2 close games where Emeka Egbuka made some big plays. He's got 3 touchdowns as a rookie. Mike, my buddy on the podcast, my co-host, he picked him for Rookie of the Year, looking a lot smarter than mine. I picked Ashton Jeanty. We'll see what happens. But Emeka Egbuka looks amazing. This game could have gone either way. Nick Chubb looks great for the Texans, so looks like the old Nick Chubb, so that's one positive for them. But this is the extra game. If you do not know, they went from 16 to 17 games. This was the extra game. And the AFC gets them at home this year. You always want to win the extra game if you get it at home. And the Texans lost theirs. The extra game, like, for example, San Francisco will play at Cleveland. Yes, they finished last. The 49ers, so they get Cleveland. Green Bay goes to Denver. I believe the Lions go to the Chiefs. Those are just some examples. But the Texans lost their extra game. And Tampa Bay is 2-0, and they're 2-0 on the road. So they're in good shape, but they've got to get that offensive line healthy, or they can be in a little trouble. Okay, one last game. Most people did not stay up to watch it. Chargers, Raiders, pretty one-sided. The score was 20-9. It was a messy, messy game. Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson continue to get touchdowns. Quentin Johnson has surprised me. He's playing really well. He was so bad his rookie year, and he was inconsistent last year. And when the Chargers drafted Trey Harris in the second round out of Ole Miss and Keandre Lambert-Smith in the 5th round out of Auburn, and they had very good camps, I really thought they'd shop Quentin Johnson. Maybe shop him to a team that needed a receiver. But good thing they didn't. He's off to a great start. They're really deep at receiver. Those young guys haven't even played much because of that. And Keenan Allen looks so much better than he did last year with the Bears. Maybe he's just being on the Bears. Yeah, doesn't help. Khalil Mack's elbow injury is concerning. He's one of their best defensive players. He looked like he's in a lot of pain, probably going to miss multiple weeks, if not months. Just saw him in a sling. Brock Bowers for the Raiders, he didn't look healthy. But it was 20-6 in the fourth quarter, and Donald Parham had a horrible holding penalty. And Geno Smith was just missing guys. He's a terrible red zone quarterback. When he throws the end zone, he just gets so inaccurate. I don't know why. He is just so bad when he throws in the end zone. And he had a terrible game. And when they had to kick a field goal and make it 29, you got to go for that. I know it was probably fourth and long, but that field goal did nothing. You're still down 2 scores. You got to go for it there. I knew when they kicked it, they were pretty much done. It wasn't a fun game to watch, and the Chargers couldn't put them away. They couldn't really get anything going in the fourth quarter. And about 3:45 to go, the Chargers call a running play at Amari Hampton, and he fumbles the ball. He saw Max Crosby running at him. That's probably why he fumbled. The broadcast said Max Crosby caused it, which is not true. If you watch the replay, he dropped it. But I think Max Crosby indirectly caused it, just his presence. But something to watch with the Chargers going forward. They're 2-0. They look really good. The defense looks better than expected. Didn't look like a great defense on paper coming into this year, but it's been really good in both games. But Trey Pipkins is at right tackle. And Joe Alt moved from right tackle, left tackle. Rashawn Slater's out for the year. Just a huge downgrade. It has not hurt them yet, but down the line it could. And the Raiders had 3 turnovers. Chargers had the 1 fumble at the end. But Geno Smith he did not play well. And they traded for him, gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. He's 34 years old. He did play pretty well. Not great, but pretty well for the Seahawks the last couple of years. But I still am surprised they made that trade because they're not going to win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith. He's just not a top 10 quarterback. You pretty much have to have a top 10 quarterback to win a Super Bowl. So I'm not sure why they did it. I guess they just wanted to be better, but they need a young quarterback. They need to draft one because Geno Smith, he's just not the guy. And Ashton Jeanty just doesn't have anywhere to run. I kind of feel bad for him. Not going to win Rookie of the Year because it seems like every time he touches the ball, there's a guy right there. And even though he's so talented and gifted, Josh Jacobs averaged under 4 yards a carry 2 years ago with this offensive line. They've just got to put some draft capital in quarterback and offensive line. Luckily for them, that is our 2 strengths of next year's draft. Okay, podcast tonight, link in the description, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Sorry this went so long, but I had so many games to do. I'm going to try and make them shorter. There was just a lot to talk about. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notification. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. Comment down below about any of these games. Comments help the algorithm as well. Share those with anyone who loves football as we keep growing the channel. Check these out if you have not. And I'll see you in the podcast tonight.